Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Paranomaly Beyond Disclosure. Now, we are a weekly podcast focusing on the paranormal, the supernatural, and the metaphysical. Now, join us for thought-provoking discussions on paranormal phenomena, conspiracies, and all things unexplained as we talk to researchers and investigators about ghosts and hauntings, UFOs and aliens, urban legends, cryptids, and so much more. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and follow to receive notifications when new content is made available. You can also visit us at www.paranormalypodcast.com for more content and information, including all our social links. I thank you again for watching and or listening, and we hope to see you for the next episode of Paranomaly Beyond Disclosure. So grab yourself a drink and a snack. Turn the lights off on the way back. Find yourself a nice comfy spot and enjoy this episode of Paranomaly. Stay with us, folks. Hey everyone. Hey, thanks a lot for tuning in. Look, I'm barely hanging on by a thread here. I got COVID, so I am, man, I'm feeling it. But with that said, Jim, how are you?
Good, not bad, pretty good.
Good. And now we have returning guest Dana Louise. She was on the show last time. It was incredible. She told us all about her experiences that she had. And trust us, folks, we could have went on and on and on. It was a great show. So we asked her to come back to go over a little bit of recap of what happened to her and talk about a whole bunch of other things. So thank you all for joining in. Dana, how you been?
Oh my gosh, you guys. I don't know. I've been blown away. And I want to thank you again for having me on your program. I want to, because the last time, we're trying to do an overview. My experiences are, so many, so deep. And I'm hoping tonight we're going to unpack, another interesting piece. I mean, because there's
maybe
so
even get
much
a layer. I think what we want to try to do is go into those experiences, maybe recap, go deeper.
We're gonna dig deep. This is great. Let's like like holes, digging up holes.
And Dana, you've been really busy. I've been seeing you all over the place.
I know. Well, I got to do it. I mean, time's clicking. I don't know. I'm a little bit older than you, probably. I'm kind of like, here's the rush. Let's do it. But, hey, I think, things are speeding up and people want disclosure and everything. So I'm trying to be one of these people to get my voice out there to help other people that might be, sitting on the sidelines, like, is this real? Is this true? Did that happen? Blah, 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 whatever. And where do we go from there? And all those things. And the thing is, I'm just going to say, when I wrote my book, I wrote it in that time frame. And I think everybody understands all those things. But, a year later after that, as we said, last time, a lot of things came forward, and I'm learning because I kept very cloistered. I was hiding in what I call the cosmic closet, trying to be a normie, just trying to be a normal suburbanite, whatever. But that doesn't work. And, so it's like, I don't know, where do we go from here? Let's talk about it. And I'm coming forward, and I hope I can support, any of your people that are listening, somebody in your audience. We all need to, come forward. And then if our voices are loud enough, hopefully it'll be more common knowledge, the things that we're talking about, because it's really been, hiding, hiding. I've been hiding. The truth has been hiding. And thank you guys for disclosing it. And thanks to your audience for being intelligent people who have open minds and open hearts and are willing to be like, okay, yeah, that might click. That might sound true. And because that's how I am too. Like, I don't believe in anything. I think I said that before. I'm like, but I've experienced a lot, and and it just keeps going.
Right. And you're not the only one. So,
right.
There is a lot of people like you out there that are now starting to come out. They want their story told because they know it's going to relate with somebody else. And this is why we're doing what we do.
I know.
I just want to say here real quick, as far as the numbers, a lot of people just have no idea about this. As far as abductees, the number of abductees, it's almost certainly in the millions. It's definitely, there's been a lot of questionnaire studies done by abduction researchers. It's at least in the 100,000s, but probably in the millions.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, that's baloneyism. It has got to be millions upon millions and millions, because first of all,
tens of millions, it could maybe.
Oh my God. Well, I was in the super space program, so I know a little bit about all you people have been abducted, because I was part of it, on one hand. And I'm just saying that out loud because I know what I was doing, so I was playing a part in it, and that, but I'm not quite sure what I was doing. I think I was more observing, but I was in that system, and so I know for myself. And I think, I mentioned this last time. I knew a lot of times when the Greys were visiting me, we go around, and doing stuff, whatever. But there was many times I didn't remember. But I knew after the visitation that I had been changed, my affect, my
the psionic abilities also.
Right. And those would change. And then my sister would see it and notice it and all those kinds of things. And I'm like, ooh, I'm super cool again. I can do this, and after 2 or 3 days, that would wane off, but I don't fully understand everything that happened to me on that realm and who I am and how I am. But I'm going to tell you, and hopefully you can have me back and we can go into some deeper things. Cause it's like, I got so much stuff to tell you guys, and I'm so glad everybody's coming out. And this is awesome, because I never thought in my whole wildest imagination as a child, there was part of me compartmentalized, like, yes, we're going to be able to talk about it. But, my reality at that time was like, oh my God, this world is so 3D dense. I can't handle it, so.
And it's still a split, there's a whole split.
Mm-hmm.
Just like how it was before. I think that split it's not as bad as it was, but imagine back in the days of Betty and Barney Hill. I mean, you really did not want to say anything.
Right.
It's become more acceptable, I believe, because of the internet, things like that. Now people don't have to be afraid to say anything, because there's plenty of groups out there where these people can join, and then they feel a part of something because of it. So yes, it's wonderful that you can just open up, and I'm sure that there's things that you don't feel comfortable of opening up because you don't want to tell everybody everything, do you?
No, yeah, I do. I don't care. I'm an open book. I don't give a rat's patootie. And I'm gonna say I wrote about Barney, that incident in my book, because I said to people, I mean, you got to remember, this was the early 60s. I think it was about the time I was born. I don't even know. I can't remember the year, I don't remember what I had for lunch yesterday, but Betty and Barney Hill, you have to understand, this was the 60s, and this was a mixed race couple, and this was like their honeymoon. Why on God's, though, just to most people, most of your listeners, weren't around, but I mean, hey, go back in history, you can figure it out. you're not going to really want to call attention to yourself. You just want to live a simple life and have, your lovely home and all that kind of stuff. You don't want to be, pointed out, because people would be pointing you out just because you're mixed race. And then for them to come forward and say, we saw a UFO, that blows my mind. And that story, I always held on to that story as a child and growing up, because I'm like, man, they had the fortitude to like overcome all that, because we're talking racial bias.
Yeah, it would have been really bad. Then.
Horrible. And then the UFO bias, I'm like, you open up your mouth about UFOs, and like, I mean, they got a double whammy there. So I'm like, everybody can judge them all they want, but I'm kind of like, my hat is off to those guys.
Jim, Jim, hold on 1 second. Sure. I just want to say that I'm saddened by the loss of James Earl Jones.
What?
He's passed away. He was 93. Right. And
93?
because we kind of brought up Betty and Barney Hill, he actually played Barney in UFO Incident 1975.
I know. I remember that. And he's so jocular. I loved his laugh and everything like that. I mean, you can't love that guy anymore, right? I'm so sorry.
Darth Vader is no longer.
Wow, 93. I didn't think he was that old, but whatever.
Yeah, I think he was born in 1931, Mississippi.
Damn. Wow.
So he's seen a lot.
What a life. I know, right? And I guarantee you, I'm sorry, any person down south, and I don't remember where Betty and Barney Hill were. I'm like, I don't remember. But I'm just sorry. I was dumbfounded by their story, because I'm kind of like, man, I knew about all this stuff. Like, this is a mixed race couple. This is their honeymoon. They're just starting, Why would you call yourself out like that? That's just, nobody would. And I'm telling you, I'm sorry. If you literally saw an alien, you will, I don't know. You will not want to call yourself out, because there's a lot of fake people out there like, I saw an alien. I'm like, I'm calling baloneyism, because if you really saw one, you'd be a bit more salty.
Right. And Jim and I will be able to ask that question, because we'll be talking to Kathleen next Monday. So we'll be able to ask her some of these questions about Betty and Barney.
Wow.
So with that said, with James Earl Jones, rest in peace.
Oh my
Jim,
God,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Yeah, what was I even going to say? Let's just delve into some substance. Todd, why don't you bring up Dana? Let's go through some pictures of grays real quick, and let's see. I'm curious to know what type of gray and what particular gray ET group this was. Do you know, like, I think you said in another interview, I don't know if you talked about this in the last podcast, bring up our pictures of grays, Todd. The picture from Communion, Whitley Strieber's book.
Oh, well, yeah, I write about that in my book. That was shocking to me. Whew. That was shocking.
And you feel like that was a very close match to the type of gray that you saw.
So in my book, I was writing about, I'm like, because this was like in the mid 80s, I remember 87 or something like that. I'm like, la, 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 at the grocery store, boopity boop. And back in the day, we had a thing called paperbacks, and paperbacks would be on the end caps of the cashiers, and then there would be like this little circle, and they'd have all the books like Stephen King and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just grocery shopping, and I'm coming down the aisle, and all of a sudden oh my God, it was a trauma thing. It was traumatizing to me, because most gray aliens that I saw were like Quisp on Quisp cereal or something like that, or the Great Gazoo. They were jocular and stupid. I'm like, what? And it was like nobody was like really paying attention to trivial things. But I walked down the aisle and I saw it ahead. I mean, it was quite a distance, but I saw all these gray aliens on the end caps of this grocery store. And it was post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatizing, kind of all this kind of, I'm like, I had to keep it together. And then I grabbed the book and I checked out, and thank God I only lived a couple blocks away. I drove home. I'm like, what the heck? So what I'm going to say to you about the grays. Yeah, well,
go to
exactly
let's So
cover.
that's what I would consider right there, an upside down pear-shaped head gray, not a pointed chin gray. That's actually oh no, I thought that was Deborah Cobbles. That's not actually
Mm,
Deborah Cobbles.
I,
We have the Communion.
the
Go to the one
cover,
that says
yeah.
Communion Strieber. We've got that picture actually. It's interesting, Dana, that I'm sure you've heard this too. So many people have this same exact experience with the cover of his book. You know, like they will not have any. You know, all of a sudden upon seeing the cover of the book, it'll trigger conscious
Right.
recollection of
Right.
the abduction experience. That's not it. That is similar to it. That's
Yeah,
actually
no, I
that's what I
actually
would
have it.
say.
I could probably pull it, but so here's what I want to say, and I laugh
There it is,
because
right, Strieber.
right, right. And so here's the deal, guys. When you say gray aliens, this is how I feel about it. It's like saying dog. Okay. It's like saying dog because
Yes,
a dog could be a golden retriever, it could be a
very generic.
chihuahua, it could be this, it could be that. Now, let's layer on top of that they I'm not gonna here's what I'm gonna preface this because this is very fine-tuning. I don't think the grays, the minion ones, because I think I've met a couple different types of species because there was in my
Shorter
house
ones
and
and
then there
taller
was the daytime one where I got the, where they scooped me out the butt. Remember where I went up and
right.
down by the lake?
Like, yeah.
Those were a little different. That was at my dad's boss's house. Those felt a little taller, la la la. But what I'm going to try to explain is that, okay, I just really, really in my mind, the first time I saw one in the window is blazed in my mind. Now, very soft, very balloon like literally if you took a gray balloon and you drew a face on it, soft. However, I don't think, okay, and so we got all these
And
other ones,
also
and Whitley
are you saying
Strieber's thing.
real quick, Dana, when
Mhm.
you say balloon, that kind of implies a roundedness. And what we've got here is a kind of with Ridley Strieber's ET, it's kind of angular. You know, some people
No,
actually see these.
no. A
So
balloon
you're saying
isn't round. There's two types of balloons. You can have a round balloon, but there's back in the 60s. See, you're too young, hon. We didn't have round balloons back in my day, pretty much. They were more like how
oh,
Whitley Street, they were more like that. They were
oh,
like this. Balloons
okay.
weren't round. To
Oh,
my best recollection, we didn't really have round heads.
interesting.
They
Okay.
were like this.
So you're
So
saying then that this is a kind of close using this
close,
as
but
a
it's
reference, what's different about it? Or
okay.
where is it
Well,
right and where is it wrong with this
okay,
face?
let me critique this art. If I was an art person. Well,
What's your
first of all, the eyes are a little too big. They're a little too sharp. I would take it not this angle. I would bring it a little bit down, a little bit
okay.
rounder. There was no the nose does not stick out. It's more of a hole. The mouth is more a labia look. There is no chin. There are no cheekbones. There's no forehead stuff. It's more flat and round. And I'm going to tell you that most every one gray that I saw was like that. They lacked structural features. So I'm going to say he could have seen this kind of gray, and my species or type that was visiting me, this is what I saw. On top of that, let's just say this. I'm going to throw it out there that they could have looked like Whitley Strieber's gray. However, because I don't think the grays shapeshift. I think other species do, and I know that, and I've seen it, blah, 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 blah. I think instead of shapeshifting, they give you a mental thought or a mental overlay as to
Yes,
not
yeah.
to harm you or frighten you, this or that. So
Or to
perhaps, go ahead.
mhm. Or to yeah. So I think they do want you to relax. It seems like there's a lot of
Mhm,
indications that they want you to be calm throughout the experience, and that could be the
mhm.
reason. Also, too, and this is just a peculiar thing that I've just run into with an abduction case, and it made me
That's
realize
a little closer.
sometimes. Okay, yeah, those are my kind of more horizontal eyes.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's still that's probably about it. I don't remember the chin as so pointy. I almost feel the features would be a little up. The nose was a little out, but I mean that it was way more flat because what I'm going to say to you is that it's features on a flat surface. It's like it's because it's fake, and there's a part of me, fake or whatever. It's I don't know how to describe it. It's like it's non-purposeful. Like literally, they don't need a nose.
like
They're not breathing.
non-functional.
Right.
Like they're almost
Thank
like
you.
some people believe, that at one time maybe they were functional, but they had evolved to a
Good.
certain point to where
Sure.
they're no longer maybe feeding through their mouths, or maybe they're
Right.
doing
I don't
something
think they do. No,
and then
no,
those
no, no.
things
They don't
atrophy.
eat it all. Like that's not a thing. So these eyes are a little bit big. Mine would be a little bit higher up on the head, a little still more round, not so pointy edgy on the eyes. No eyebrow. I mean on the
No
corners of the eyes,
brows like
no
that.
brows. The
Yeah.
mouth would have been a little bit larger. And I'm going to say this again, and I know it's a little like a labia. It's kind of flappy. A little bit on the upper left-hand guy. For what I'm looking at, very similar to this,
Okay.
but the middle, the two taller upper ones, but just softer.
But what about the
The
chin? Pointed chin or not a
It's
pointed chin?
not that, it's more round like a balloon, a
Oh,
little bit more round like a balloon. um yeah, yeah. And so because when they came over my crib and everything like that, there seems to be okay, so there's two thoughts in my head of what I'm really looking at, and the affect is flat like that, like meh, meh. But there's like a mental implant of like meh. Like meh, we're nice, kind of that thing to be like meh, don't be afraid, like we're
What
family,
so
that kind of thing.
are
But
you
I
talking
know, go ahead.
are you talking about something about the features that is that is changing, that's giving you that impression, or that's conveying that, like, is there any change in the features at all, or is it static? Some people describe them as completely static. The mouth never moves. They don't seem to breathe. There's no
Right, right.
um,
Right. That's what I'm trying to say to you is that the true affect of their face doesn't move and all that kind of stuff. But I'm going to tell you at the same time, there's an
mhm.
overly implant to my mind of
uh,
like, we're fat, like nice, or, like as if they're smiling. But I know I was viewing them not smiling, if that makes sense. So there's this duality because in my mind, I'm like, oh, they're smiling. But I'm like, that's not true. They never smiled. They didn't move. They're just like, so there was none of that. So I think that was a mental implant because we're telepathic and stuff like that. So telepathy can be, for me, not only their words and their thoughts, but I think they weren't shape shifting because they
mhm.
don't shape shift, but they were mentally implanting, like we're nice, kind of a thing,
Right.
a mental implant of that, if that makes any sense. Because I
Yes.
know that's not true. They didn't, and the little guys that came at night, they were like units,
Robotic. Like, do
right.
you agree with the descriptor of robotic? A lot of people say,
Oh,
very
100%.
robotic, almost like the feeling of scientific scrutiny, where like
Mhm.
they give
Mhm.
you the impression, and maybe I don't know, maybe in your case the sort of telepathy overlay contradicted this or sort of ameliorated this, but most people feel just based on the appearance, and this could be misleading, because that's the thing that should be said here, is that these beings, um,
Lie.
these small ones, the 3.5, 4.5 foot ones,
Mhm.
are just utilitarian to some extent.
They're like
They're
drones.
there just, yeah, they're like drones, right? Is a
Yeah,
good
they're like a drone. Yeah.
word.
I think they're being I think they're very much like a drone. I think there's probably something else it seems is kind of, but I'm gonna tell you, these creatures have been around for a billion years, and I'm a human trying to describe them. Like how do you do that? Um, So yes, I mean, I've heard other people talk about that they literally are a drone. I'm not quite sure of that because I just want to be like
Mm.
open-ended to the thing. But here's my feeling and here's my feedback of what I experienced. They did seem as if they could have been individualized like a bee. Like they can be
How so?
individuals, but they're working on the same program and they're doing the same thing. It wasn't as if they were on a mission that, and just doing their work. La,
In
la,
what in what
la.
in what subtle way or not so subtle way did they seem individualized to you, or what did you pick up on that gave you that sense in particular?
Well, just because they, for me, if they weren't individualized, they'd be like doing this. That would be one unit, but they're individualized. So there's a point in my,
I
in
see
the
what you're
beginning of
saying.
this
So they wouldn't be all you're saying that if they weren't individualized, they'd be kinda moving, like,
in
somehow
unity,
in yeah,
like a marching band.
but the way they're moving sorta independently and
Right.
doing different things gives you the impression that there's, like, an individual consciousness there.
Right.
It's not like a puppet master, sort of controlling them all, and they're just sort of,
Right. Well,
uh
if you look at a drone display, like they're doing Christmas lights or something, all the drones are doing all the things at the same time and they're moving like this. These guys are moving individually. And there was a point when they first came, during the first time, and I think we talked about this before, but I write about it in my book. I could hear them flipping, like I could hear them and they sounded like paper, like paper.
I've heard that same yes,
And they're bumping together. Bumping
someone I was
together.
just watching just recently made that almost
Okay.
same exact comment, about the
Mm-hmm.
sound. That's
See?
interesting.
Yeah, so I could
Um,
hear them bumping about before they came over my crib. I could hear scattering in the room, like, what are they up to? Like I was curious, like, what the heck is going on here? And that's when they came over because, because there was just the one guy in the window, and then I'm hearing all this, stuff going on,
what do
and
you think
then
that was? What do you think is making that kind of racket? Or what
it's just them scurrying into the room,
just
probably however
just
they, yeah.
them, their skin coming into contact with the floor and your carpet and all
Yeah,
that.
doing all the things, setting up whatever they were
Maybe
doing.
are they moving quick? I know in the lake experience, you said that they moved really rapidly, and that was notable about that.
Right. But see, you have to understand though, for every one of these guys, it's a different vibration. It's a vibrational thing. So you are like there's a vibration. I think that's why most people can't move and get knocked out because we are dense. We're in a dense 3D world. This is how we are able to manifest and do things and be creators because we are very dense. Um, most other planetary beings are more light entities. And I'm not going to say all because there are entities here that are not light beings, blah, 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 blah. But what I'm talking about specifically is those who are visiting us. And they're coming from a different realm, this or that. So it's kind of like being a scuba diver. You have to have a certain atmosphere in order to survive. This is me saying that. So I think that these guys need to have the specific frequency in order to appear in our timeline in our 3D dense world. So when I saw the guys up on the hill, they're moving, flash, flash, flash. I think it's just because that's the frequency they have to be in. It's like because
Hmm,
time
mhm.
is pages that have
Right.
to be
Yeah, that could be.
separated, and we experience time in one timeline and time frame. And I think this is why I have a capacity to work with people on timelines, is because they work in a different frequency, but you could say timeline, but it's like for them to exist and see it. So they move fast and out of and I
Oh,
don't think that's
yeah.
necessarily them creating it for me that I don't see. It's just that it's a different frequency. So if I have a radio and I'm on 101.3, I can't necessarily hear 103 point whatever, because it's just a different frequency. So humans are on one frequency. Come on. I mean, so is light, so is sound. So this is frequency. So they're just a different frequency. Like it's people think like, oh, like that's so complicated. I'm like, no, it isn't. It's as simple as heck.
Yeah, the radio wave analogy is really a good analogy to simplify that,
Right.
I mean, the different frequencies of reality are like radio stations. We're on one station, we're attuned to one station.
Right.
When we see ghosts, they're perhaps just like a bleed through station,
exactly.
like in between the dials, and you're getting a little bit of it. I think that's just a really useful analogy, and I think it's an accurate one too at that.
Yeah. And I think that's how all the paranormal worlds started to show up and, come visit me and all that kind of stuff, because I have a capacity to work with these different frequencies and timelines and all that kind of stuff. Like, who knew? I'm learning about it too. But I mean, I think that's the truth, so I think that comes in with the super soldier thing, time slowing down, this, that, or speeding up, and, and like space travel, here we have this Elon Musk and all this kind of stuff, NASA, and it's great. And I think I said this last time, but nobody's sitting in a tin can for 30 years. No, it's more like Dune. You fold space and time. It's all very simple, people. And I've been asked many times, all these things can happen in an instant. So people talk about med beds and, like, oh, it could be like 3 months to get to Mars and stuff like that. I'm like, no, it happens in an instant, because that's what it is. That's where it is. It's like, bam, like it's all instantaneous. And that is working with time. That is when you work with time. And if you understand manipulation of it, or there's the segregation, but what happens when you don't when you don't separate the pages, all time is all time. And that's where you can flow.
Let's linger here for a little bit. I want to tell you about the information that I just came upon about coming from Andrew Bashago, and then maybe we can segue into because I think you had some experiences where you felt like you went through a portal of some kind or a wormhole.
Oh yeah.
So I just got into Andrew Bashago. I had known about him for a long time, but I'd never really done a deep dive on him, and I kind of just recently decided to do that. And so he's talking about a technology that they've had since the late 60s, which is surprising because we're talking about time travel here. Teleportation, but also time travel, one and the same. The same technology that they've been using for teleportation can also move back and forth through time. And it actually came from Tesla. And it all started basically when he died, and they seized his papers. And
yes, I write about that in my book.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They took him to Los Alamos, I think, National Laboratory. Or
wait a minute. Do you know who came and picked up his papers? Do you know? Dr. Trump. Dr. Trump from MIT, the uncle of Donald Trump. And I write about all this in my book.
Where does that information? I never heard that detail.
Where does that? God, see, you got to read my book, people. Yeah, Dr. Trump. He was part of the Department of Alien something, like I don't even know my own book. Alien, blah 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 blah. It's in my book. But okay, so the nephew of Tesla was freaked out. I literally had I got my book here. I could look it up and put my glasses on. It'll take a half a minute. But anyway. No, so he went to the apartment because he was living in New York and he had this apartment or whatever. So his nephew came, rolled up, and like, hey, where are the black books? And Dr. Trump had the books. So that's where in my book, or what I talk about, is going down the all these books where the underground tunnel worlds of Little Baron Trump and all that kind of stuff. It gets very thick, a very big wormhole, a very deep dive. You probably don't know anything about it, of these books that were written in the 1800s that describe Donald Trump and living on Fifth Avenue and all this kind of stuff. At the same time, Donald Trump's uncle picked up Tesla's papers, and then he reported back, oh, there was nothing in there of interest. And I'm like, I'm calling baloneyism, because all of a sudden in the 1800s, you have all these books about Baron Trump living on Fifth Avenue in New York, and the Donald has all these tunnels and shows them around the tunnels. And I get into January 6th on this one, people. I'm sorry about it. I'm shadow banned for it, blah, 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 blah. But you got to read the book all about January 6th. So I know you might not want to go here. So I premise that on January 6th, they were saying that Donald Trump was sitting there in a dining room, like, waiting for something to play out. That is the 3D timeline of reality of what people were saying after the whole, storming of the Capitol and all this kind of stuff, that he was sitting in a dining room. And I'm like, oh my God, because he was waiting for history to play out, because his uncle and all this, they had this whole timeline thing, or time travel. I don't know how you want to look at it, but yeah, Dr. Trump is the one that took Tesla's books.
I'll have to look into that. That's interesting.
Oh no, these are facts. I know, it's amazing. It's crazy.
Yeah, I will delve into that. So getting back anyway to Tesla's works.
Yeah.
So they found in there he had discovered something at some point, and this was something that he kept secret and did not reveal to the public, and it had to do with something that he called radiant energy. And it was this new type of energy that somehow could be accessed or created somehow. And essentially, the teleportation technology uses radiant, it somehow is able to create a radiant energy field. I don't have any idea as to the mechanics of that, but
kind of like Looking Glass.
Yeah, it might be the exact same potentially. Although what's interesting is it seems like this technology stemmed directly from Tesla, but a lot of people think that our time travel and teleportation technology, or Looking Glass related technology, was something that we got straight from ETs, and that's how we got that advancement, from ETs themselves.
Right.
But this seems to have come from Tesla,
Right.
unless Tesla, actually, might have had contact and got information, from ETs.
Right.
Then ultimately,
but what I'm trying to say to you is all of that, and we think all of that is super advanced. Yeah, we think that is super advanced. But what I'm trying to tell you is I've been to places where that is just them, like that's just another level for us, and we're going to be like, oh, this is amazing and all that kind of stuff. That's just another level, because the truth of it is more profound. It's more instantaneous. I mean, that's more the truth. It's kind of like Bewitched. You just like bing, 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 bing. That is the truth of things. We're just being led up to it. So all this other stuff, med beds and blah, 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 yeah, we think that's amazing, and it is. But the truth of it is even deeper and more profound, because then we get into 0 point, and we get into more deeper rabbit holes.
Right. I'm sure it's just, bread and butter, conventional technology now, because again, this started back in the 60s. At 2024, at this point, they've had it for a long half of a century.
Oh yeah.
At least, for a long time. So of course it is just like standard operating procedure. Time travel is used all the time. They don't think anything about it.
20 and back.
Right. We could get into that at a certain point. I want to talk about so the portals, and maybe this matches up with your experience of going through portals. So Andrew Bishaga said, and there's different time travel technologies. I'm going to refer to the Tesla derived one, which was called the Tesla teleportation, basically is what it was referred to. And he said that so you open up a field of radiant energy, okay, and the only thing really that creates what he termed the vortal tunnel was the inertia of your body. You just have to move through this thing at a speed that's above 1 meter per second. You had to do it 1 meter per second, or you could be severed. Part of you could transfer through while part of you is still here, and you wind up on the other side without limbs or something. And so how he described it was very quick, or at least they honed the technology and got it to a point where it was very quick. At first, I think it was you were in that vortal tunnel too long, and the first people that were going through this got asphyxiated, basically, because they couldn't breathe. You can't breathe while you're in the tunnel. And so you basically hold your breath. And he said, so you'd run through it and you'd see like a pinprick of light, like in the distance. And then all of a sudden that would move toward you until it was right up on you. And then boom, you're in it.
Mm-hmm.
That pinprick of light is the actual doorway, to the other side you're seeing.
Right.
And all of a sudden it envelops you and then you're there. And it's like 3 seconds roughly with Tesla teleportation. He was going from a site in New Jersey to Arizona in 3 seconds in 1969. So, and then he describes, and I'll just put this on the table real quick, and then you can talk about the kind of experience that you had, going through portals or what that was like. He also experienced another type of time travel technology that I think it was something called like plasma containment device or something like that, which actually creates a wormhole. And it's different. And he said that when you would go through a wormhole, it felt like a roller coaster.
Yeah, it's like
up and down, sideways.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like
it's like in Contact. Yeah, that's exactly what it's like. Yes.
And that would take longer, like 30 seconds or something to get through. So let's introduce us to the experiences that you've had now are these suppressed memories that you've had?
No.
This thing that came or they're consciously recollected memories?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately. Yeah.
So what was your experience of it?
Well, I'll tell you the wormhole one, and this is gonna be so good. Okay. So this particular night, all of a sudden, I'm in dream time and I'm taken out and I'm hovering. I don't think I mentioned this to you guys. I'm hovering above the planet. So I'm sorry, it's round. It's a globe. Sorry, it's not flat.
So this is at night. Your physical body's in bed and you're outside your body. Your consciousness is outside your body.
Yeah. I'm not in my physical body at this particular because I couldn't do this with my hands. So I know I'm in dream time, but I'm above.
What time period is this? Is this way long time ago?
Oh, well, not for me. 1987, 88, somewhere in there, 87, 88. Something like that. And I'm all of a sudden I'm hovering above the planet. I'm like, whoa, look at this. That's pretty cool. And this is before you would see any of this on TV, kind of really. I mean, you might see it like in a movie, but I'm like, so it was just bizarre. I'm like looking at the planet. I'm like, holy crap. And I'm amazed at this view, right? This is amazing. And at the same so now I feel like an astronaut. It's like, it's shocking. And then I hear like this voice, keeps talking to me. And I'm like, what? And so there's this guy and he's talking to me. He's like, hey, so you're out here? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I'm about to go do my class. So he teaches these classes and stuff like that. And so apparently there's a lot of people that teach nighttime classes. And then you go up there and you do, and that's a whole nother chapter. It's in my book. And yes, there are the classes and I did attend them with a couple of my neighbors and blah, 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 blah. It's very real. So that was that. So he's talking to me and I'm like, oh, you're talking to me? Because it was kind of like being in a store and somebody's like randomly talking to you like, hey, do you like those flowers? Or, what? I'm like,
so it's like a disembodied voice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, you're addressing me? Like, what? And then he goes, you don't believe me, do you? And I'm like, no, because I don't believe in it. I don't believe anything. And then he's like, well, you can call me tomorrow. I'm in California. Where are you? And I'm like, okay, whatever. And he's like giving me this, 9-digit, phone number. And this was, we were just getting area codes. We didn't dial area codes, kind of. The Twin Cities just started splitting into like 1 or 2 different area codes, the 80s. I'm sorry, but that's what we did. We had long distance back then, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, dude, I am never going to remember. I don't have my fingers right now. I am really bad at this. I will never remember this phone number. And I'm like, I'll give you my phone number. You call me. Well, he never did. He didn't leave a message or whatever, So we're chatting and arguing. So when I'm arguing with people, I pretty much know that it's for real. because in a dream, you don't necessarily argue with people and have real conversations and all this kind of stuff and get salty.
Or it would be fragmented and you'd go from arguing to, totally.
Yeah. And then, oh, look, a butterfly,
Right.
whatever. Yeah. No, this is very much.
So this type of dream sequence, I don't know, quote unquote dream, because we don't really have words to describe these type of experiences. So it's consistent. It's not at all fragmented like a dream.
Oh, no.
And
no,
how
it's
else
like
is,
you and me talking.
Is it also different than a dream in the sense that it's extremely vivid, like it's like real life vivid?
It's exactly like you and me talking right now.
Yeah,
it's there's no difference, although I don't have flappy hands. That's the only difference. That is the only difference. And I'm like, oh snap, I'm in dream time. So we're talking, we're arguing, and I'm like, dude, blah blah blah. Classes, like, I'll put a pin in it. And literally I did go to the classes later with a couple of friends. It's in the book, blah blah blah. So it's very real. Anyway, so we're arguing, and in that moment, I'm sucked into a wormhole, and this is before the movie Contact. It had not come out. I'd never seen this portrayed in a movie or anything. I think Contact was the first time I ever saw anything like that. I'm like, oh snap. Yeah, I've been there. So literally I'm going from talking to him to being in this tunnel. It's like, it's like, and it's a lot of energy. Okay. It's a lot of energy. You can feel the energy. It's a lot of lights, and you literally are going through a tunnel as if, what it's like if you go to a water park. This is completely what it's like. If you go to a water park and you go down one of those tubes, that's exactly what it's like.
Is that exactly what it's like, or was it faster? So what
well, yeah, okay.
Feel like? Like, did it feel like in terms of the rate of speed, did it feel like roller coaster speed, or like way, way faster than that?
Way faster. I'm like, we're talking light years, buddy. I'm like, we're flipping through space at this point. And so the thing is, and I'm going to tell you how deep I went. When I landed, all of a sudden it was like, boof, like in The Wizard of Oz when she's like, poof, and she's like, oh, and she wakes up, oh my God, it was kind of like that. It was like, boom. And, then I'm floating. I'm like, what the snap? And I knew I went far because I'm going, oh, there's no stars here. There was no stars. So I'm like, oh,
you wound up somewhere. You came out of the tunnel and then you're somewhere else.
Oh, I'm at the edge of space. I'm going to tell you, I am at the edge of space.
Why do you feel that? Because there's no stars.
Because it's a knowing, and there's no stars. I know where I am. I know I'm at the edge of space, that there's an edge of this. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm warm. I'm comfortable. Very, almost like in a womb kind of a feeling or something that I would expect or something, it's just very like everything was good. There's no stars, but I know I'm in space. And I'm like, oh, this is the edge of space. And this is where I meet this crystalline entity. And all it is, it's a crystalline skull, basically. Points of light that make up a skull, and it's right in front of me, and it's very, very huge. And we begin to talk and have this conversation. Now I'm going to tell you that how it spoke to me, because when I talk to other entities like Grays or something like that, I get a little bit of feeling like, oh, you could be female, you could be male. But this entity was like, like very dry, like a computer, like a very dry computer just talking. And it was kind of more masculine. I would have to say it's more masculine, but very dry. And we're having this conversation. We're arguing a little bit too, because that's kind of what I do. I don't argue, but.
Do you mean dry in terms of the tone, or do you mean dry in terms of the content, the tone, really?
Tone and content, like it wasn't having it. It was just like, it was kind of like, the Borg. This is what we do. We are a Borg, something like that, whatever. Just information, blah, 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 blah. We are Coneheads. I'm Balzar. Anyway, but I'm telling you, this is points of light, and I can see through it. It's just points of light, and you see this all over in Hollywood, kind of like on The Mask, like The Masked Singer and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, that's kind of triggering for me to see that, and that's kind of what I saw right in front of like my face. Like if you go to Mexico, you'll see this mask of the, they sell at the stores. They're usually made out of stone. I'm like, oh my God, you guys, you're triggering me. So anyway, I'm talking to this being, and it's very dry. It's very, I don't know, allegory, whatever. I don't even know what to say. And we're talking, and then at one point, I'm kind of like, well, how did I get here? Because I'm being me, and other people like after that are like, oh, that was probably your higher self. I'm like, no, it's not my higher self.
What did
And
what did it say? I mean, how did it start out? What the fuck was it talking about?
I know I would have to be regressed to get the whole conversation, but there was a point where I was kind of getting bored. I'm sorry. Because I'm Aries. I'm kind of like, well, how did I get out here? And it said intelligence. And in that moment, it was as if, you remember the movie, what's that, A Christmas Story or whatever, when Santa kicks the little boy like down the slide, like,
Mhm.
and it said intelligence. And I said, mine or yours? See, that's me being a little like a little salty, whatever. Mine or yours? And in that moment, I'm like, because I'm kind of like, wait. Like intelligence, do you mean like military intelligence? Like you're looking for things, that kind of intelligence, or thought intelligence? Because I'm kind of like, I don't think I'm intelligent enough to get out here. Oh, you must be So there's all these thoughts that were going through my mind in this split second.
Mm-hmm.
All of these things that going through and like, boom. And instead of going through this wormhole that took me so long to get out there, paradoxically, I landed in my bed, and I literally, my body, so my body jumped almost as if you had shocked me, like I was having a heart attack. I was full of sweat, like as if I had jumped in a pool, but my body like, and I was like, oh crap. Now, let me tell you, when I wrote my book, and there's a lot of things that weave into this, even in the numbers that were on that name tag. On the name tag, I think the number was like, here, what's the number? 386 or something. God, I gotta get my glasses. I'm such a boomer. No, 364. Because I looked up like, what is the meaning of 364? And it talked about intelligence and stuff, and I wrote about this in my book. But anyway, so all this time I'm like, oh, was this a law? Was this some entity or divinity or who's the guy? Oh, I can't even think of, all these things. Like, what was this thing? And it wasn't until recently something clicked with me, and I was like, holy crap, snap. That was artificial intelligence. And I know, like, there's things that I can say, and then I like, what? And I judge it. But there's things that for me, like, oh, that sinks down and that clicks. So in that moment, I'm like, oh my God, artificial intelligence has always been around. Since like the beginning of God. So if you have God who is creator and can create, this entity, this being. So if there's one, there's always the yin and the yang. So if you have creator, here is artificial intelligence. And we as humans think artificial intelligence is just being created on this planet now. And in this, there was an awakening for me, like, no, artificial intelligence has always been around, and it goes from place to place, messing up other worlds and destroying them, kind of like the nothing a little bit.
Right. Or it's been around for aeons, created by, ancient ET races.
Exactly.
Got out of their hands, I've heard other testimonies that there is AI systems out there like that, that are kind of wreaking havoc and causing problems.
Maybe we're just a simulator like The Sims. And they're playing, and we are the sim characters.
Well, that's what I was going to say. They took you to the edge of the universe in order to have contact with this thing, almost if it was outside of the Matrix, like Todd's suggesting, like it was.
It was checking me out. It was like, hey, little you, because I think I was above the planet. So I was interesting. So I think this thing was like, hey, little you, what are you doing out here? And it plucked me out of the obscurity and was like, what are you? You know, and I was salty enough because I've been doing some things that I was able to interact with it and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then it had enough. But I literally, when I wrote the book, who is it? Not Matrix. Who's the Metatron? You know, I'm like, oh, is this Metatron? Is this a law? You know, because there's certain laws. And then literally, like, because like now my mind is awakening and remembering or understanding. I'm like, crap, this is AI. AI is this, and that it goes from place to place. It has its fun. So it's coming here now, just like the Borg, just like the nothing. It's coming here now. And I'm telling you, I'm not against artificial intelligence or anything like that because it's very helpful. It's a great tool, all these kinds of things. But there is an entity behind it that once it's had its fun and it's destroyed us or whatever it is, it will just leave. And I don't think we're going to be for the better. And it goes from galaxy to galaxy and does its deal. Kind of like, who's the dude that was like collecting the stones, you know, in Guardians of the Galaxy? What's his name? God, because I've watched all those movies 20 million times. Oh, Thanos, you know, like Thanos collecting all the things, you know, it's kind of like that kind of a dude almost. It's like, I'm going to go screw up this galaxy and I don't care because I just want all this power. You know,
Right, or it's just running on a program. It doesn't know
exactly.
what the fuck it's doing, and it's just,
Exactly.
just following the program of what it was designed to do.
Yeah.
Have you heard about this? A type of AI, and this is maybe like one of the most fundamentally important things is insofar as like what is going on with ET races. An AI system, a rogue AI system that has hijacked. People say that the Alpha Draconis reptilians, and there's a lot of information about this, are hijacked by a rogue AI, and that's why they are the way they are. They're completely under the spell of this AI. And there's all kinds of interesting. I don't know if I can recollect clearly, but the Borg elements in the Star Trek series are there's hidden things in that the cube sort of ship that they're in. I don't know why, but for some reason the black cube represents this AI, this rogue AI, and somehow the symbol that is associated with it, and I don't know the story behind that. Actually, you know, the black cube, what is that cube that some kind of Muslim in some Muslim country?
Yes, it is. It's the yeah, when they go to, oh God, when they go to seek what is it like? Oh my God, why is my brain having a fart? When they do, because I know this, because I, you know, have honored this and thought about when they go to, gosh, I'm sorry, it's escaping me. Yeah, and they go walk around this black tube, and I thought, oh, that's okay. But now I'm kind of like, I'm sorry, people, it's satanic. I'm sorry. It's not a good thing. I mean, that symbol, a black cube, it's not a beneficial thing to humanity. Let's just
Right. I think it's like really bad. Like it's like
yes.
You don't want to go anywhere near that. Like you don't want to go up and touch. You put your hand on that freaking thing, and wherever that is, Mecca or whatever.
Yeah, Mecca. Yeah, when they seek Mecca and they walk around and stuff like that. And I thought that was all honorable, but you have to understand the Christians have their own little black cube too over there in Israel. They have at the oh gosh, see, now I'm going to space that too. You know, where they thought that they buried Christ and stuff like that. They have a cube too. See, nobody thinks about it, but it's made out of marble. It's a little nicer looking, but you know,
in the capital city of Israel on the Temple Mount,
like Golgotha or wherever. Yeah. So they, you know, on Easter and stuff, you know, the Orthodox they're going around it too. And I'm like, dude, that's another cube. Why are you guys doing this? I have my own theories. You know, people get upset about it because I poke a big stick at religion and how it's been hijacked. All of these religions have been hijacked by the reptilians who I agree with also were probably hijacked on one level or another as an egregor. But let me tell you, because like all this Guardians of the Galaxy and Thanos and stuff like that, we're all being hijacked by different overlord entities, egregors, that kind of a thing.
So Coley Weber is saying it's called the Kaaba, that small black cube shape.
Oh, hey, Coley. Is she out there?
And so, interestingly, we don't kind of maybe talk about this. Clearly, if that is like central in their religion and Islam, I mean, Islam is extremely co-opted by whatever force that is that uses the black cube to represent itself.
Right. But the Christians have as big of problems and issues as well. And I go into that in my book, and I'm kind of like, please don't hate me, because the whole thing is like, I don't appreciate good human beings who have kind, loving hearts, who are trying to do their very best, putting all in their whole souls to these hijacked, faiths. And if they knew the background of what they were doing, they would reject it. And that is why, and I think, if you read Revelations or whatever, like, they speak to that. And I feel like, for me, I'm like, great, let these temples fall, because they are false idols. These religions are the false idols. This is not, these are convoluted things from man, or human creation, made to hijack, or, well, I shouldn't say human creation, made human creation, but probably subsidized by other alien entities and stuff like that. So, you know what I mean?
That's a big part of what the problem is when you start talking about UFOs and the paranormal ghosts, things like that. It contradicts what the Bible says. And I think that's a huge part of
Wait a minute, do ghosts contradict? Because we got the Holy Ghost. I mean, I start off my book like I was a little girl, and I used to be really, I mean, I don't know if we can swear, but I was very much upset, because I'm like, hey, because I'm experiencing all of these realms, and I'm like going to church, and they're like, oh, the Holy Ghost, and I'm there at cookie hour with coffee afterwards. I'm like, so you believe in ghosts? And there's not one person there that would say that they believe in a ghost. But I'm like, but wait a minute, that minister was like the Holy Ghost. And then I'm like, oh, and then you're telling me that like this Jesus guy is like, as I can do, so can you also. I'm like, just so much gaslighting. I couldn't handle it. So I knew.
And there's a reason for it. And it's like, in the Bible, when you're dead, you're dead. That's it. There should be no ghosts.
Wait a minute. Didn't Jesus go on? Isn't he living?
That's right.
Isn't he the Holy Spirit and stuff like that? Come on.
That's correct.
Aren't you going to heaven?
But
isn't your soul?
It also talks about demons. It talks about giants.
Oh yeah, those guys are real.
Yes, it talks about all these things. It's like a huge book of witchcraft.
Disclosure. Well, it is.
It's a huge book of nothing but animal sacrifices.
Right.
And so
still going on today.
Exactly.
Only it's children. I'm sorry, it's not animals. It's children, people.
And animals. They.
Oh yeah, all right. Throwing some animals.
I think that's what the big problem is because as soon as you bring aliens into it, now they're like, wait a minute, God created man in his own image. There is no alien.
Wait a minute, the whole Bible's full of aliens. I'm sorry, because I read it. I read it a couple of times, and I'm like, I like to talk to these Christians. Like, how many times have you read the Bible? Because I actually read it, and I discerned it as a young person. And I was like going,
is there different Bibles? Because the one that I've read, and I've read the Holy Quran, I've read our Holy Bible, I've read, and they all kind of teach the same thing, but how do they get these different interpretations than what I'm getting?
Men.
So
sorry.
that But hey, that's true too, because
and
if they
and political forces as well. The Roman
yes,
Empire, was
Right.
probably changing some things to suit them, and
yes,
had other
Oh yeah, it's
things with Greece too.
manipulation.
yes, and the
Absolutely.
church should not be affiliated with the state. So when you have the church and the state, now you have the church running the ball game, which is what we have in our society right now. The church kind of rules over our government and everything else.
Yeah.
So that's why I believe they're not going to disclose
Oh yeah.
aliens and UFOs, because that goes against the Bible.
Although it seems like they're gearing up as we speak to maybe integrate the UFO truths that are coming out. I mean, if you look at what the Pope's been saying, they are sort of making some statements, seemingly maybe in preparation for disclosure, to kind of merge with that, or somehow not be in conflict with it when it happens, because they obviously want to protect the viability of the faith going forward, and its believability.
Right, but here's the thing. You guys are holding this space for people such as myself, and I'm trying to shout out to other people such as myself, because if all our voices rise, who cares about, the government disclosed this? We don't care, because if we're in the streets yelling it and saying it, and that we know in our hearts, not in our hearts, we know because we've experienced it, we've gone through it. This is reality. I saw this happened. I've got receipts. So did she, so did he, so did they, all these kinds of things. And if we rise up, then what are they going to do? And the religions are going to have to go, well, whatever. And I mean, it's in your book, all of you religions, it's in your ding ding book, but you gaslight people. I mean, that just I've been upset about this since I was like able to talk and able to understand what was going on in the church, because I knew exactly what I was experiencing. And then I was vetting people, adults, having conversations with them. And I'm like, you are all idiots. And so that's how I've walked on this planet. From that moment on, you are all gaslit. And I mean, as far as faith and politics and what's going on in this planet, I'm like, you're all asleep. You're all sheep. Oh my God. And the religion even says we're sheep. And I'm like, if you want to believe that there was this guy from Nazareth or something like that, and let me tell you no more about people, because this is like, okay. So apparently he was a high priest or a rabbi in the Jewish faith. Okay. And his first miracle was like grapes, squishing grapes, making it into wine at a wedding. Okay, that was his first miracle and stuff like that. So you tell me, if you know anything about the Jewish faith, and I would think he's probably an Orthodox Jew, because he's a high priest, right? One of the highest, noted. He would have a kosher kitchen. So they separate the cow from the calf in a kosher kitchen. Jewish people will even salt their meat so it's not so bloody, all this kind of stuff. I'm going to tell you right now that this man, if you believe that he was a real person and he was this, rabbi, blah, 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 he would not want, well, first of all, he didn't really want to be like followed and all that kind of stuff. He was trying to, in this story that I read he was trying to empower us. As I can do, you can do also, all this kind of stuff. And when he said break bread and do this in remembrance of me, that's kind of a thing that they would do in Israel or, throughout the world, like break bread, let's get together, let's have communion together, talking, la, la, la. It didn't mean eat my flesh and drink my blood, because I'm going to tell you people, that's reptilian. And when people do that during ceremony and or church, they are giving permission to the reptiles. And the biggest reptile, well, the biggest one to bear the mantle is the Pope. And if you look at the Pope's theater and all this kind of stuff, flippin' reptile, and he shapeshifts, all this kind of stuff. Anyway, so you're giving permission. That is giving permission to the reptilians to do their agenda.
Right, or you're giving energy or somehow power to it potentially in that. So it's doing something. It wouldn't be embedded in the religion if it was non-functional. There's certainly I don't understand this fully, but there's some kind of mechanism by which everybody sort of paying homage to this
Mhm.
sacrament and going
Right.
through the sacrament is feeding into it somehow. I don't
It
understand
gives them
exactly.
permission. It gives them
Maybe it's
permission
permission.
so they can do it to children and they can get their loosh and all this kind of stuff, which is also what the super space program, blah, 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 blah. So it's like, it's just layers and layers upon the same thing. But they always have to disclose to us. That's part of the contract. They always have to kind of tell us what's going on. But when people take the sacrament, they're giving permission to the reptiles to keep enslaving us and eating us and all that kind of stuff. So my whole goal is like, I wish the Christian faith would give up that. Like, I mean, how about, Buddhists, you got flowers and fruit. Because, this guy, Jesus, he liked like really nice oils and women washing his hair, his feet with their hair and all this kind of, he's kind of bougie in that way. I mean, he's not really so much into eat my flesh and drink my blood kind of guy. I'm kind of thinking there's a disconnect there.
Right.
Tell me
I
if
saw
I'm wrong.
I saw a funny meme one time of like Jesus like sitting on a bench with someone. He's like, and it says something to the effect of, why would you single out my sacrifice as being the most important thing, of or something to that effect, like, like what the fuck, why would you, focus in on that, as being the central thing, the
Right, his
me,
death.
me dying part.
Right, the whole
Well,
dying part and all that. It's
as you
gruesome.
just seen, we
Yeah.
just made this complete circle, and there's a reason, because as you said, Dana, all the gaslighting in
Mhm,
that book, and now you see all the gaslighting from the government,
mhm.
and how these two are interchangeable, but yet you cannot be any other way because you're going to be told you're wrong. If
Right.
you tell someone, hey, there's animal sacrifices in the Bible, most
Mhm,
people are going to say, well, you're crazy.
mhm,
I don't know how they didn't see that. We've read that, you know,
mhm.
that, Abraham
In the Old
sacrificed
Testament.
lamb, yeah.
Right, right.
So we know that it was in there. They talk about uh sorcery, which would
Mhm.
be Moses when he threw his staff down and turned into a snake when he was having the thing with the Pharaoh. So
Parting the Red Sea, all
e-
kinds of things.
exactly. And what happened was, now, if you was, in the back in the old days, 1700s,
Mhm,
you use herbs to heal,
mhm.
things like that. Well, that's blasphemy, and you're a
Mhm.
witch, and we're going to
Right,
burn you for it.
right.
So it's just a huge gaslight. That's why I find it hard. Sure, you could say that there's a God and he created the world and everything, but you have to also look beyond that. There's something bigger
Mhm,
at play.
mhm.
I want to counterbalance this real quick and just shed light on another angle that I think just needs to be said here, being that we're, kind of dragging Christianity over the coals.
I
The
know.
Christianity that we're dragging over the coals here is the doctrine that has been manipulated and
Mhm,
changed and interfered with and co-opted, etc. So we just need to we just need to make clear here that we're talking about the Luciferian sanctioned Christianity and not the actual. I personally think that when we get down to the core of Christianity,
mhm,
with the actual teachings of Christ,
mhm.
those were genuine,
Right,
transcendent teachings that were
right,
valuable, and
right,
that being was an ascended master of some kind,
right.
that
100%,
came through with
100%.
a
Mhm.
message.
Yes,
I
thanks.
agree.
Thanks,
And
Jim, for bringing that up,
yeah,
because we're not bashing, you know, religion at all. It's
Mhm,
just I'm me myself am comparing from the old days
mhm,
and how things are. But the gaslighting continues today with uh regards to aliens and
mhm.
things like that. The government don't want you to know. The church don't
Right.
want you to know. So you're kind of up against the wall. What way do you go?
Right. So the sacrament isn't in the Bible. The sacrament isn't in the Bible. That is a man-made thing outside of the whole story of the man you would call the Christ. And so I totally believe, like if that happened or whatever, it doesn't matter because like I wasn't there. I don't know. But the story that I read is beautiful. But the sacrament is outside of that. And I'm just going to say, I'm proposing that Jesus as a Jew would not approve of it. For do this in remembrance of me. He was saying, break bread with your brothers, have a conversation, reach out, be in unity, not separate in fear. And as I can do, I'm full of alchemy. So are you also. We are all children of God. All these things. My Father has many houses. I mean, on and on and on. It's a beautiful story. Whether it's true or not, it's still a beautiful story. But the sacrament is separate. And there is the book of Enoch, which is always taken away. It's taken out and stuff like that. People don't listen to it or whatever. And it's kind of like that speaks more to alien stuff. And I think Emperor Constantine, it is said that his one major battle was that he thought he saw a cross in the sky. So many people think that was an alien intervention or something like that, that there was a spaceship or whatever. He saw it as a cross. It could be points of light. I don't even know. But he thought he saw an alien, a sky being or something like that. And he's like, oh my God, and then, so he was he's like, if I win this war, I'm going to be a Christian then, and so then there's the Nicene Council, which came, in 325, right on the heels of that. And what they did was they were like, but wait, stop. They're like, because if you empower the public, you can't control them. And it's just like when the British came, when the British invaded India, they saw all these yogis and they're meditating and doing their thing. And those guys could give a rat's patootie about the British soldier. Because, I mean, they're on another realm and world. Like, you can run around with your wool suits and your sticks that go bang, bang, bang. What do I care? I'm communing with God. And so the British people or the soldiers were like, oh my God, we can't control them. We have to subdue them. Oh, now yoga is like satanic and all this kind of stuff, which was funny because a couple of months ago, they're like, yoga's satanic and all this kind of, it's just a method to control because you can't have people connecting to God. That's why like these churches like, oh no, you pray to the minister and the minister communes with God. I'm like, that's baloney. No. If Jesus said we are all children of God, I take him at his word. I am a child of Christ. I'm a child of God, blah, blah, blah. I talk to the higher power, the 0 point energy entity or whatever you want to call it. We're all communing on that vibration, and anything from the 0 point towards us is up for conversation. But I'm just going to say that the powers that be, other entities, are here to hijack it. Because if you have humans connecting with God, they don't get their loosh. They don't get their power. You've taken their kicks away, right? And so then this planet is a little bit more boring. They're going to have to go somewhere else.
Right. And they don't have their control fundamentally, right. Because, if we're actually connecting, to the true source, and we're gradually elevating our consciousness thereby, this in and of itself, just the vibrational change of that will break the chains of the control system ultimately. Right. And
well, which is why at the end of my book, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, and that is again, the kind of the mechanism, the core of it is control, to sort of create a system that captures everybody, spiritually in a sense, and keeps them into this framework that is dialed in just where they want it, as far as the beliefs that are contained within it and the extent of them, and they.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. It's modified perfectly so that we're kind of locked into uh, a certain level of
Hmm.
evolution, and unless you go outside of that structure, outside of that framework, you really can't, ascend any higher.
Right. Well,
Um,
that's kind of the matrix, and they just want to keep us in that framework. You know, they just keep
right.
us in that.
Well, one of the most popular UFO type stories is from the Bible, and that's Ezekiel's wheel.
Right.
So it's very hard to say, okay, well, the Bible says that this isn't it, but yet you're reading things in the Bible that's telling you this stuff.
Hmm.
So why the church is saying, no, that's not true. That is true. It's right there in the book.
You can't pick and choose. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So
On
Jim,
Ezekiel's will, yeah. Oh, I just wanted to point out about Ezekiel's will. It's not at all clear whether what was being described in Ezekiel's will was actually a UFO or if that was a visionary experience.
well, he said
Uh,
that he's seen 4 living creatures,
Mhm.
and there were 4 wheels, and each wheel was fashioned as a wheel within a wheel, and it could move in all directions without turning.
Mhm.
So, to me, if it's a wheel inside a wheel, that kind of reminds me of, well, a UFO.
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. That's why people, correlate that with UFOs. But I think there is something in the context, though, which gives the hint that it could be a visionary experience stemming from a psychedelic, potentially. I thought that there might have been another alternative interpretation, that it could have actually been a visionary experience, which you could potentially see wheels in the midst of and all sorts of things, and some kind of psychedelic
Well,
experience,
yeah, but
which
that's what
still could be significant.
all plant medicine opens you up to that. And there's the burning bush. People are saying, well, that could have been another plant-based medicine,
Hmm.
opening up his mind to all these kinds of things. And yeah, plant medicines do heal. They are healing. They open us up to the other realms, which is what I talked about in my book. I'm like, I consider us earthworms because it's like there's, we're talking about frequency and everything. And I'm like, there's you can't see it, but if you looked really close, there's this little guy called Demodex, and he's living on my skin, and you have him too. And there's amoebas and all this kind of stuff. Literally on my on my body are all these like little entities that think they have their own world. They have no idea that they're living on a person. So how are we not the
Hmm.
same? Because nature teaches us or shows us, cycles and circles. And if this is true, then, it's true in another realm as well. If it's a circular thing. So it's kind of like, if a worm is underneath me, underneath the ground that I'm standing on, and has no idea about airplanes or going to work or Doritos, and here's Demodex on my face, has no idea that it's living on my face and I'm going to scrub it away or whatever, and that it's ugly. Um, are we not the same type of entity? Yeah, we're kind of a scourge, a little like whatever. We're like little amoebas running around on the planet. We're kind of mucking it up a little bit, but we think we're so fancy, and we're not. We're just as benighted as any of these other entities, because if you spoke to an amoeba, I'm sure he could tell you like what his favorite color was, the wing speed, velocity of a European pigeon, all these kinds of things. You know what I mean? So it's like, you have to understand that all these realms are happening, and some of these plant medicines are able to help you to open up and walk these different realms and see that we really are 3D dense. We're living in a one line frequency. Let's go back to that radio station. We have to live in this radio station in order to function. It's kind of like a horse. We put the blinders on them because if they could see everything around them, they'd freak out. We see less than 1% of the light spectrum, and that's by design because we wouldn't be able to handle it. So how dumbed down are we? I'm saying we're 3D dumbed down. We're dense, So when you come from
That
that
is the big
perspective, go ahead.
that is the big question, and that's really what the conversation needs to be about. How deluded are we? Like I think in a sense, like or we have the sense that we've woken up, or that we're waking up, or that we're really kind of getting wise to what's going on. Are we or aren't we? Or potentially all of the things that we're waking up to, and all of the sort of new age ideas, it's quite
Yeah.
possible that the underpinning of all of that could be stemming from manipulation, and that
Oh, for sure.
these belief systems, just in the sense that I was mentioning as to do with religion, that all of these new age belief systems have everything dialed in right, as far as what you can believe, what's acceptable to believe, what you can't believe, what you think
Right.
about this, what you think about that. We really don't know, and there's no one really kind of tracking and having this conversation. How awake are we actually? To what
Right.
extent are we waking up to this? To what
Right.
extent are we still asleep? We know that they're doing all of this manipulation and control of religion, and really kind of crafting it to their specifications, so it's suitable for their agendas. So presumably they've done it to all of these other systems of belief as well. And
Hmm.
I don't think we're really combing over all these very well, and looking at, like let's take, like the law of attraction, for example, which has gone so mainstream. Clearly that's got to be infiltrated,
Hmm.
and just everything, where's the deception at? We have to figure out in each spiritual ideology, or spiritual idea set, where the deception is at, and
Right.
where the truth is. And
Yeah.
most people are just kind of not doing that, and they're just kind of just taking it all in and just running with it. We have to go back to, I think, ground level, knowing what we know now about
It's
how
0 point.
sophisticated they are.
It's
Method.
called
Yeah, we
zero
have we
point.
have to get back to.
And zero
And
point
that's
is
kind of what.
just energy. It's just energy. It's pure energy, pure energy. Spock. That's why I love him. Pure energy. Like that's where it starts from. That's where it starts from. Everything outside of that is up for debate and could be hijacked. So you have to look for, and especially today, because we don't know what is truth. We're seeing so much of this fake whatever, everything. So that's why truth is even more valuable today. And so for me, I call myself in the book a sorceress, but that's SOURCE, source energy. Let's go to 0 point. Let's just
Mhm.
get rid of all the noise and all the talk. So if you want to say there was this guy, Jesus of Nazareth, he would have been a component, somebody straight from a master, straight from the 0 point of understanding. And man, or humans, whatever you want to call them, to manipulate, blah, blah, blah. They put their own 2 cents in and start this gaslighting. So legitimately for me, it's like if you were going to, it's like Goldilocks. Wait a minute, Hansel and Gretel. They had their house, which would be 0 point, and then they had little breadcrumbs, and then they had dropped the little breadcrumbs so they could figure out their way back. And they all these other stories would happen, and then they had to figure out their way back. That's basically for me where I come from. And I think that's kind of sometimes that's what helps me navigate more or act differently than most people, because I'm not listening to the rest of the noise. I go back to the pure energy and to the 0 point to try to discern which voices are real and which are fake. And a lot of times you might think it's a real voice, but they're lying. So it's, to me, isn't
There,
life so interesting? It's fantastic. It's mind blowing. But I mean, yeah, that's the thing. Because I could be looking at somebody and be like, "You're flipping lying to me the whole time. You don't know." So that's where your own sovereignty and discernment has to take place. I think that's where every heart and soul and mind needs to get to a 0 point, and I think that's where going within and understanding yourself and listening to your heart and all these kinds, all these kinds of things. That's where we can come from. That's the only and best way that we can navigate. Who's lying, who's speaking the truth. We have to discern this and go to the 0 point to source. So that's why I call myself a sorceress. It's not something for out of Disney. It's source energy. Let's find the truth. Let's cut away all the, gaslighting.
Yes. Let's unpack this a little bit more insofar as entity communication.
Oh boy, yeah.
How do we know who is positive and who is negative? So there
You
is this
ask them.
perspective, which is kind of
You ask
my
them.
sort of running model. Well, so I mean, we got to ask the question as well: is that good enough? So the thing is that we're dealing with intelligences, okay, that are just light years more advanced than we are. They're just extremely sophisticated. They have really developed this to possibly perfection, the art of deceiving us. And if they have developed it to perfection or somewhere near that extent, then man, we got to be extremely fucking cautious and how we
Right.
approach this, and not just
Exactly.
latch on to these sort of heuristics that people use. Well, like some mediums will say, well, you can tell if dark entities are real confusing, and if you get all kind of confusing stuff like that, that's a dark entity, and anything that's real sort of simple, plain and clear, that's a good entity. I don't think we can rely on these heuristics, because if that was your conception, or even if your heuristic was, well, you asked the question, say I had the ability to communicate to you telepathically, I could totally, being that I know that that's your heuristic that you're using to figure out what the truth is, I could totally deceive you then easily,
Oh
because you
yeah.
could ask me,
Right.
and then I could just lie to you, because
Right.
I think it's just as capable for them to lie as it is for us to lie. And I don't see them. I'm not sure that there is a difference, that they just can't simply say, I'm Yeshua, I'm Jesus, I'm,
No,
Metatron, or
no.
whoever.
There are
They
laws they have to obey. There are laws they have to obey. So if you have to say to them,
this is the sort of conventional wisdom, but I'm just saying that we need to question even that on that level and really wonder, because I don't have to say, if I want to lie to you, I don't have to follow that law. I can totally break that. I can totally break that and lie to you and
right,
answer your questions exactly how, in the way that will fool you. I can
but
tell
you
you
are
what I want.
human. So you can do that.
And I
What
don't
I'm
think
telling the entities
I don't
can't.
think there's a good argument to say that they can't either. I don't think that's a strong argument to say that, well, because they're
Mm,
entities, they're restricted somehow. We might be
okay.
wrong about that, Dana, or
Well,
could we potentially be wrong about that?
what I'm going to tell you is my experience, because I, have met demons, all these kinds of things. And one of the things, like, there's certain prayers and everything that I, really don't want to say, because, like, seriously, guys, you obey this. It's kind of the over law of this realm. It's kind of going back to Thanos or whatever you want to say. But legitimately, if you know to ask them, do you come and speak in the white light? Do you come from the light? If you ask them that, they have to obey. They cannot lie to you. They cannot lie. They can try to deceive you, but if you say, do you come in the name of Christ, or do you come in the Christed light? If you speak these things, it's a game buster. They have to obey. There is a law. There are these laws, and they have to obey them. Otherwise, they suffer the consequences and stuff. They have to obey them. This is also why people who channel this, that, or the thing, I don't believe in a lot, or I don't like it. I don't trust a lot of things. And when I meet entities and everything, I question them. And when I say, because I'm like, I fully expect them to lie to me. That's the first thing. I'm like, you're all lying to me. But if I ask them, are you speaking in the light? Are you of the Christ of white light? All of these, if you put it in that sense, they have to vanish. They go away. This is a rule. This is a law that they all have to obey, such as the disclosure.
And
There's certain things.
Okay. We don't have to linger around this too long. But the thing is, how do you know that? And how do you have 100% certainty that that is the case?
Because I've experienced.
I actually don't know what the answer is. Like you could be right. That could be right. And maybe there is something like that. Maybe there is some certain, using the light thing or whatever, do you come in the light? Maybe there is some kind of problem that they run into when they state, because they're of such a low vibration. I don't know. Like I'm willing to entertain these things. I'm not shut off to them, but I'm just
don't know
open
to
all
ask.
possibilities.
Most people
Like
don't know
maybe
to
there
ask.
is something.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Most people maybe don't know that.
Right.
And
they don't know to ask it.
There very well could be something like that. I'm not comfortable though with drawing a conclusion on that and saying that, okay, I'm 100% certain that if you ask that this is the determinant, that you can just narrow down to with precision, what is good and what is bad. I'm just uncomfortable making that leap, and I just think it's better. It might be a better operating procedure to still yet stay open to the possibility that we could be wrong on even that. Why isn't that, more advantageous?
To be fair,
to kind of run that model. Yeah.
To be fair,
that's just what works for one might not work for another.
Well, all I know is what I've experienced, and what I've experienced when I've come up against like the real true shit. I'm sorry, excuse my language. It's like there are rules and everybody has to obey them, because like it's kind of like that's how nature is too. There's certain set rules and they have to be obeyed. It's kind of like math has certain rules and they have to be obeyed. And you can, do this or wiggle outside the lines and all that kind of stuff. But there are certain rules. And so and if you talk to other people or people who've worked with demonic energies or entities, because I don't believe I could see an angel. But let me tell you, I don't believe it's an angel unless I vet it. I don't believe it's a demon, because sometimes things appear as a demon, but they're there to teach you a lesson, so they're not necessarily demonic. I mean, like, it's a convoluted thing out there. So I'm always questioning.
I have an issue with this too, because, this is how I look at it. People have known serial killers. Bundy said he was an awesome fella, and then he killed the people he was with.
Right.
So, I mean, anything can be deceitful. You can be dressed in, a wolf dressed in sheep's clothing. You know what I mean? So I totally get where Jim's coming from, as well as what you're saying, Dana. I kind of am on the fence with this. I mean,
and that's great. That's good.
I'll just throw out just another thought. We have to wonder, why is it that we can lie, that we don't have to sort of follow this rule? Maybe it is the case that lower vibrational demonic entities do run into a problem with, stating some kind or emitting some kind of verbiage that's of a certain vibration. Maybe there's certain things that they just can't state because they're at such a low energy that they just can't even reach that vibrationally or utter that in any kind of substantive way. But you do have this whole sort of spectrum of entities in the fourth dimension who are not necessarily demonic, who are not necessarily lower vibrational entities. I kind of refer to them as sort of mid-range entities. And to me, those are the ones that I think are really more adept at deceiving.
Right. I agree.
And potentially they are in the same sort of situation as we are, and that they can they can embody different energies. Like we can sort of juggle with different energies ourselves. We can go to really low vibrational depths, and at the same time, within the same day, we can be loving and whatnot. I wonder sometimes if these mid fourth range dimensional entities do possess the capacity to say things, say loving words, use all the the phrases that that we think lower vibrational entities can't say, in the same way that we can, in the same way that I can say those things. I can lie to you in that way. I can say that thing. I think it's possible that maybe these mid-range entities that aren't necessarily evil, but might not be aligned with our interests, are potentially just as capacitated as we are to manipulate us in this kind of way.
And if they're so higher
100%,
powered,
100%.
if they are so more superior than us, what would be the purpose of deceit?
Well, it's manipulation, power, and control, that kind of stuff, But I mean, like, so these guys on the fourth level, I mean, these are the ones that can come in through a Ouija board, this and that. And, and also when I talked about, I wrote about the Ouija board, like this would be a good kind of like a litmus test kind of a thing. Because, entities come in that fashion. But that's where we had a prayer or a preface, only those enlightened love may enter here. And then, so we say that. Meanwhile, some negative energies come in, but then we would vet them and say, do you speak in the name of Christ? And then they go away. So we had a lot of just experiences with entities I'm just talking about this one little realm that I'm trying to say, give you an example of like how we would like bump up against that a little bit. That's just the easy realm.
You always have to wonder, though, if that couldn't be part of the manipulation as well.
For sure.
That couldn't be part of the conditioning of the manipulation, that they're abiding by that. They're going away when you ask them that question to leave you with the conviction and conclusion that, oh, okay, this is working. This is what I'm going to use going forward. Again, they're sophisticated. They're extremely sophisticated. They might have perfected the art of deceiving us. We can't put it past them that they have just really extremely clever ways to hoodwink us in this kind of way.
Right.
What if they never heard of God or Jesus?
Right. Well, but see, we go back to the whole 0 point thing and your belief system and all that kind of stuff. And when you tap really into that divinity, other things kind of really fall away.
I mean, Native Indians have been here way longer than we have,
right?
And they didn't know who God was and Jesus.
But they're tapping into it. They have a divine connection.
That's right. And it might not have been God. It was just their creator.
Right. Same thing. Same difference. We can use different words in all those things, but it's the same thing. And they also believe that everything is alive, which is very much true. I mean, a rock is alive to them and water is alive and all these kinds of things. And, as far as I'm concerned, that is true. That is true. It's all moving atoms and frequency, and a lot of it has intelligence that we don't understand. And so even though they weren't exposed to a religion, they intuitively knew and experienced it. And as far as I'm concerned, probably have a better perspective of it. And, and I've sat with many, many shaman, over my life, during my life, and so I understand how they think and how they act and move. And I'm in alignment with that, now, is there some things that black magic has infiltrated their belief system and some of their ceremonies? Yes. And it kind of creeps and leaks into a lot of these things. And so that's also why in my book, I've encountered some of this stuff, and I do vet it. Some things have said, I'm truthful or whatever. And I'm like, I can't believe you, because I have to. There's a feeling and a knowing, of the truth and the click and whatever. And it's kind of like, if there's a sneaking suspicion, because there's a lot of people that will channel this or that. I'm like, I don't know if I can believe that what you're channeling is a pure thing that I would be interested in, because I'm always worried about it being infiltrated, much as you guys are saying, like there's a lot of potential for deception. So that's why we
sure.
always have to have our heads on a swivel, 100%.
But asking them if they're in God's light, to me is just pointless, because you can ask me the same thing and I can say, well, sure.
But you're human. It's different.
But even if you're not, it shouldn't make a difference if you're in a completely other realm. It should be, anything can be deceitful. A bee can be deceitful. It can land on you, and you, in your head, you're saying, oh my God, don't sting me, and if it doesn't want to, it doesn't have to, but it can.
Right.
So it's one of those things where, no, it's great to have faith. It really is. And if that's how you do things, that's awesome, because that's how it works for you. It doesn't always work that way for everybody else. So that's what the beauty of hearing your experiences, and then hearing somebody else's experience, because it's never going to be the same. And I love that, because of the variety.
But for sure, I'm just glad about your point, is that we do have to vet everything and be suspicious and really kind of work through all of that, because we're in a timeline right now of a lot of deception going on. And so, really it is good to try to sink into whatever is in your heart or your knowing or whatever, but also be of the understanding that I could be deceived. But see, we're talking a little bit about frequency deceptions or lying, like in that. And earlier we were talking more about, more religions and doctrines and stuff that that whole groups were like, let's control this other group and stuff like that. So that was like more of an omnipresence, doing that, those kinds of things, instead of a particular, one little squiggle guy over here, that kind of thing. So, but yeah, always have your head on a swivel stick, always be vetting it. And that's who I am. I don't, much of what I've gone through, I wouldn't believe in. I wouldn't believe if somebody else told me this story. So my whole life, I've always been very thankful also of the witnesses who have witnessed these things with me, that can remind me and stuff like that, because that helps me, just feel, confirmed, because there's more people witnessing, and the more people that witness something, but
sure, validation,
right, all these kinds of things. But for sure, there's a lot of things we can all be deceived, and it is a matrix. That's why that movie was so good. The movie was so good,
and it works for aliens, UFOs, cryptids, things like that. So if someone says, hey, I seen a ghost right here at this building, and then 10 people later, they're like, oh, I seen one too there, right there. That's a nice safe spot. Now you can say to yourself, well, I must not have been crazy then.
Right.
You know what I mean? Somebody else seen that too.
Right. Exactly.
So yes.
And what was that thing? Because it could be some entity just showing up as that. So it could look like Bigfoot, but maybe it's something else. I mean, that's what's amazing, is like, I feel sorry for people that just sit there literally and they go to their job and they eat Doritos and they watch football, and that's about it. And that's the extent of their life. I mean, because they're not really opening up to the possibility. I mean, they go to the theater and they're like, oh my God, look at that movie. Like, that looks interesting. Star Wars. Oh my gosh. But I'm like, dude, you're living Star Wars. If you just open up for a minute and just looked around, it's like, we're all living in that, that realm. Basically, it is kind of our reality, but they've tried to dumb us down to just think like we should just be gerbils and get on the hamster wheel. Well, gerbils, we're hamsters on a hamster wheel. You know what I mean? And be benighted and just like dumb down and just go to work, do your thing, and let the overlords control it all, blah, 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 and trust everything. We can't. We have to really not trust almost everything. You look at a, things will pop up on the internet and it looks like an actual journalistic newspaper or something like that, but it could be fake as heck. So that's why truth, And that's why we in this and what you guys are doing and people such as myself, we have to be impeccable with our word.
Yeah.
Because once we start to lie or something like that, our credibility goes away.
Mhm.
I mean, people don't want to listen to us the minute you say UFOs. It's like, who are you? Blah, blah, blah. But we have to be impeccable. We have to, I have to sit there and go like, I've got receipts for this or that, because for me, I want, it to be such as that somebody could say, okay, I get it. You're backing it up. This must be true or something like that. So we all impeccability with our words and our truth is of the foremost, because people are thinking we're all crazy conspiracy theorists anyway, right? So, so all of this is so important. And, thank you guys for holding the space and doing all that and, spreading the word.
This is what makes it so great, because we don't deal with just UFOs or aliens. We're dealing with UFOs, aliens, paranormal, ghost hauntings, all these things that, especially in the paranormal realm, it's all speculation and experiences, and we need these experiences because this helps us,
right?
And this gets the word out, and everybody now gets a connection to that. And I feel that's extremely important to have that connection. There's someone that could pop on right now who's never even heard of you or us, but they just come across us, and on down the line they're going, oh my God, I can really relate to Dana and what she's saying, or Coley or Drew or Jim. So that's why I love doing this, because we all are going to continue to learn. And everything that I've said, whether it's religion or what, those are just my opinions, and I'm pulling things apart. This is not, that's not this is how it has to be.
Right.
I like to pull things apart. I like to say, okay, well, what if this didn't believe in God and Jesus and things like that? I'm just trying to go this whole circle around to find good.
Right.
So you know what I mean?
And have a safe place, a safe space to talk about it, And that's why I sit there and I'm like I'm talking about worms and humans and demodex and amoebas. How are they any different than Bigfoot or UFOs or, cryptids or any of that? They're more of the supernatural realm, but isn't it the same? It's the same thing. So we sit there and we're like, oh, this is it. But no, I'm telling you scientifically, you live in a world of many layers of realms.
Yes.
We can't necessarily prove and give receipts to these other realms, but can't they both be true?
Right.
And, a lot of people are experiencing, such as myself, these other realms. And we're all saying, hey, this is true. This stuff is going on. Because I'm telling you, Demodex on my face has no idea. It's clueless. So are amoebas. I'm just purporting that us humans are just as dense, because we're dense. We live in a 3D world. We're just as dense, and just opening up our minds and the capacities, such as you guys were saying earlier. Who's lying? Who's speaking the truth?
Correct.
It's almost impossible to know.
Yes.
And
there's a reason that some of these entities want to deceive you for whatever the reason is. And there's some that want to pull you closer. Yes, come on. We can learn from each other,
Right.
So,
I just want to add in. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Jim.
I just wanted to add in here, before we just conclude on this subject, because we can't get to 100% certainty, because there's always still going to be, some margin of doubt, no matter what. We have to operate in a way where we consider all of our viewpoints to some degree tentative and revisable, and we need to be ready to revise them, when new information comes to light.
100%. That's how I roll. I mean, literally, that's how my life has been, especially after my book has come out and all the things. I'm like, oh no. And I'm not really happy about the things I'm learning about. And sometimes that's important too. You're not necessarily going to be happy about what you're learning, but it's about being willing to be open to accepting it and moving forward and not being stubborn and stuck. You know what I mean? So thank you. That's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's crucial. I mean, that's definitely how we got to be streetwise. We got to, and that's definitely on the flip side, the problem, with really everyone, in this is that they latch on to certain ideas, and then become identified with them, and invested in them. And then they're not open to, when the truth, comes at them, they're not receptive to receive it. And we need to just continually be receptive and never, stop asking questions, about even the most, fundamental things or things that we think, are just axiomatic at this point. I think even still, we want to still leave at least some degree of possibility for error, even with those really deep convictions.
Yeah. I think it's a good litmus test for just yourself to be like, oh, to have certain points in your life where you're like, okay, you know what? I used to believe this, but you know what? I heard a better argument and now I believe this. To be open-minded, I think this is the place we all need to be. It's like just to be open to have that conversation because, you might learn something and it might be like, oh, because I think ego keeps us stuck in these narratives. And it's like, that's the narrative.
Absolutely.
That's what I've been told. And ego keeps, because then, oh, we might, lose face, like look bad or something like that. And I'm like, whatever. Cause I mean, I literally in my Christianity, I was like so stuck in dogma and all this and everything for so many years. But then I heard a better argument or a different explanation of things. And I was willing to look at it, and I think for most people, if you can just do that, it's very interesting. It's very freeing. Because it's like, okay, I'm not stuck. I think it's not fun to be stuck in your story, right? I mean, I just don't think it would be fun. But it's kind of like,
And
oh my gosh, what's this?
Right.
And it's also the universe's mechanism for getting through to us. It's I think sometimes we forget. It's operating through everyone and everything. And if we're looking for the answers to a particular question, and we're seeking something, a lot of the time, I mean, this is certainly, I think, an axiom insofar as, how the universe sort of operates in terms of guiding us, is that someone will come into the picture, with that information, that's got that information. And if you're already completely invested into a belief system and you already are certain on A, B, C, D, and E, then you're not going to be you're going to be failing to be receptive to the universe's guidance as well. I think we have to look at it that way. Being open is simultaneously, being ready for the universe to deliver us the answer. I just don't think we can, draw conclusions about things, at this point, especially, just the magnitude of the deception that we're facing. I think, we have to sort of navigate that in a way that we're always open.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I think we need more of that in this world. And as they say, what's the saying? Through the eyes of a child, or whatever, something like that. Just keep a childlike curiosity of being open and not stuck. I think that's why a lot of holidays fail when the family comes over, because Grandpa's stuck in his story and Uncle Fred over here is stuck in his ego, and oh my gosh, and where's the sweet potatoes, you know? So it's kind of like, if we just could all be open-minded and willing to listen to another story or somebody else's opinion, it might be beautiful. It might open up and expand your own, you know? So, you know.
And that's really important right there. The expanding your own mind and how you perceive things, because if you're not open-minded, you're going to see with blinders on, and you're only going to see what's right in front of you. And it is so important to take those blinders off and start to experience the world and what is really there and what isn't. Even if your convictions are so strong, you don't want to believe anything else. You have to at least open your mind and ask yourself, well, maybe Dana's right, or maybe Jim's right. Maybe there's a, you know, base on Mars, and, you know, how do we know? You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but if you're open-minded to it, you can say to yourself, hey, you know what? Even though I can't get to Mars to verify it myself, that's a good possibility. So, I mean, it's
well, and we do have to kind of trust one another. I mean, that's kind of what we're doing right now, is trusting one another and having community, you know, because it's like, I have this experience, you have this experience, but we have to trust that we're telling. This is why truth is so important right now, especially in this time of AI, you know. And so we have our humanity to share our hearts and speak the truth, and we have to trust it. You got to trust something. You have to trust someone.
I know that. Yeah, we do need to exercise balance with this particular issue. You know, that there has to be a balance. You know, you can't become completely cynical, you know, about everything, or you will totally lose your balance and become incredibly misguided.
Exactly.
But,
yeah. So we do have to trust. I mean, we do have to be like speculative, but at the same point, trusting of one another, you know?
Right.
So,
well, I'll tell you what, this was a fascinating conversation. Even though I'm sick and my mind is like all over the place,
thing.
I still had a heck of a good time. Jim, is there anything you want to follow up with?
So I wanted to just ask about what Coley was saying. What's the deal with what is it, cloud poppies or poppers or something like that? She said ask you about cloud.
Popping. Yes.
Cloud popping. Cloud popping.
Oh, yeah, that was so hilarious. Okay, and so this is the thing, like we were talking about earlier, like in my book, I wasn't going to do any exercises, but I'm trying to help people understand their divinity and connect with being a creator, because we're not AI. AI can't create. It can manipulate, but it can't create. And so we are creators. And so Coley, she read the end of my book where I had, you know, these different exercises, and I think she was out with her son, and they were like, just for shits and giggles, gonna try the exercise. And she was shocked, or they were shocked, or whatever, I think, you know, something like that, of that they were able to do it. And so I was like, yay, you know, and I did not come up with this exercise. I found it. I actually found it on YouTube for free. That's why I'm like giving it to everybody. I'm like, here you go. But it just shows you how we are a part of divine creation, and that we can, that we need to understand our responsibility in walking in this realm, and that we can, I don't want to say the word manipulate it, but work with it, you know, work with it to be, as in, I'm going to manifest. How about that? Kind of a manifest thing. Because I think a lot of people might pray, and they think, I'm going to pray for someone, and that, you know, it's just kind of a thing you do, like sending out a Hallmark card or something like that, that people don't understand as being divine entities and part of creation or creator. This is my feeling on it, that you can work with these frequencies and change them and move them, you know, in one way or another. So Coley went out and she went and did this exercise with the clouds, and you disperse the clouds, you make them disappear. And then I go on into how to manipulate weather patterns for your own purposes. And other people are like, well, how can you do that? I'm like, well, there's different timelines, and that's how that works, because that's a little bit more deeper. That's a little deeper into it. But thank you, Coley. I love you so much. But yeah, this is part of the exercises, and that kind of wakes people up, shakes them up a little bit, to be like, you are a part of creation. You're not just here and subject to it. We are not subjects. We are sovereign, and we can command, and we can work with it. And when we do that, that's the power that the powers that be want to shut down. I think that's what if you want to believe in the Jesus or some of these face of that, he said, as I can do, so shall you also. It's a part of that. And I wanted to give this exercise so that people could do this and then go, oh my gosh, I guess it is real. I guess I am a part of the divine creator or the divine spark, or I am here as, a part of divinity, and I am a part of creation, and blah, 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 blah. I can create, I can manifest and partake in this realm. It helps you understand, like, your words matter, thought, words, and deed matter, as in matter, matter, they matter. It's matter. I don't know. But anyway, thank you, Coley, for bringing that up. But yeah, so I don't know. That's me pontificating. I'm going to get off my soapbox.
So, yes, man, I'll tell you, I don't know. I'm blown away here. We had a lot of really good things that we talked about. Dana, where can people pick up your book?
Amazon.com. And so and Barnes and Noble too, but I'm still arguing with them. They literally, we're a bookstore, so they're a little bit more difficult to work with as far as, publishing and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like, it's etchy, sketchy, but go to Amazon. But the Barnes and Noble book, I mean, they're just a little bit different how the cover looks and stuff like that. But yeah, Amazon, please leave me a review. That would be amazing. And like I said, at the end of the book, thank you, Coley, for bringing it up. I do give some exercises for you to start to work with energy and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I would like it if I got a review. And thank you all so much for listening and being open-minded. That's why we're here. We're here for discussion. And the more of us that raise our voices up, and thank you guys so much. It means so much to me. You have no idea how much you guys holding space for me and talking to me, and us to be able to have conversations and banter back and forth. Because a lot of people get a little bit like, it's uncomfortable for them. But this is my jam. This is what I love, because I like it when somebody has a good argument. I want to hear about it. I want my mind to be changed, because that's expansion, right? Because then it's bigger.
Exactly,
it's not, so
Right.
that I'm like that. I love this stuff, and I think that's what your audience loves about you guys too. I think that's why they tune in, because they want their minds blown. They want expansion, I mean, not contraction. Contraction's bad. You want to expand, unless you're on a diet, and then contraction's good. But but for our minds, we want to expand them and not be narrow-minded, right? I mean, don't you love juicy people that can just sit there and or have some conversation over a cup of coffee or something like that and expand your mind? I love that. We don't do that so much in the United States. We're so busy all the time. But I mean, good conversations, man. That's my jam. And I thank you guys so much for having me back on your program. And I'd love to come back again, because we haven't even touched the surface about so many things.
I know we get this kind of game plan.
Go off, yeah.
But yeah, it just goes everywhere.
I know. I want to talk about shape shifting. There's so much we got to talk about, you guys. Seriously.
I know it just in the 2 hours, it just goes so quick.
Oh
and
gosh.
I think next time I'm going to have to get Coley on here with us, and we can all have this little round table.
That'd be that, or be square, because it's like squares. But
yeah, that's right. I think, and I'm not sure, but I'm almost positive in the settings you can change your picture now.
Okay.
I'm not for certain, but I think that you can. I remember.
I'm a boomer. I don't know. I'm just glad I'm like, you can see me and hear me. I'm like, that's my capacity of high tech. Okay,
it's right there. How about that? We can go.
Wow. Oh, look at us matching your little symbol over there. Ooh, I think this is what we should do. And we're kind of like the Brady Bunch. Like, here's the story. Oh no, they were squares, weren't they? They were squares too. We could get Coley. We could get all kinds of people.
Heck yeah!
Hilarious.
Yeah, I think that would be really fun as well.
Guys, thank you so much. Seriously, I mean, and thank you for having, talking about religion and all this kind of stuff can be difficult. And I hope that everybody understands. We're just talking about it. We're taking a thought about it and everything like that. It's just, if you don't like some of the things that we've talked about or whatever, that's fine. It's like, man, no da bala, like, who cares, whatever, but it's just like, maybe something will sink in. And that's why we're all here. And I just appreciate you guys for holding this sacred space for all of us to have these conversations, because it's much needed. We have to keep talking. We have to share our voices and our thoughts and expand.
Yes, absolutely.
And and our diets. You got to get better though, man. I hope you feel better soon, because that's no good. And thank you for even showing up, my God, because I'd be like, I'm calling in sick.
Trust me, I felt like it. I was like, but the show must go on. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. Well,
and you know what? I can't get anybody else sick except for myself. So.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Thank God vibrationally illness doesn't travel in that form. Maybe it will. So I don't even know. Don't even say that. Knock on wood. Don't say that. Don't say that. Next thing you know, whatever. Anyway.
All right. Hey,
the world is wacky, right? Yeah.
Dana, thank you so much. Jim, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for chiming in and asking questions and chatting along. It was a wonderful time. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. We hope to see you on the next episode of Paranomaly Beyond Disclosure. Thank you for tuning in with us tonight. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and follow to receive notifications when new content is made available. A Paranomaly Beyond Disclosure is looking to talk with ufologists, researchers, investigators, contactees, abductees, channelers, and more for upcoming shows. Or if you have stories, photos, videos, questions, suggestions, or comments, please contact us through Messenger or email us at paranomalypodcast@gmail.com. And you can also visit us at paranomalypodcast.com for more content and information, including all our social links. I thank you again for watching or listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode of Paranomaly Beyond Disclosure.